Alright, Deadheads, let's discuss The Walking Dead comic issue 192. We have some important updates that were just recently announced about the actual comic. I do want to give a spoiler warning though. If you have not read issue 191, we are diving straight into the biggest spoiler in the history of The Walking Dead comic. So please leave now, read it, and then come back, because I think the cover for issue 192, the numbers, its placement within the story, I believe this is screaming confirmation of what happens at the end of issue 191. Now let me just say, there's a lot of people still in denial. If you haven't read it, I hope you're gone by now, because we're going neck deep into this bitch. So, Rick is shot at the end of issue 191. I already did a video talking about my thoughts and opinions on why this is in fact the real death of Rick Grimes, and it's not just a scare tactic cliffhanger to boost sales. I'm going to do a quick summary, but if you want my full detailed opinion, you could go back and watch those other videos. I'll try to link it at the end of this video, but let me summarize. His story came full circle. He did a goodbye with his son, with Michonne, and let's not forget, he entered this story getting shot in issue number 1. And he will exit the story getting shot in issue 191. And it's no coincidence that issue 192 is the very last issue in Compendium 4, as well as, again, the numbers. It hits home. It's not a coincidence. Carl Grimes entered the story in issue 2 when Glenn brought Rick back to the camp and he was reunited with his father. And now in issue 192, he'll be separated from his father for good. If you take a look at the covers side by side, maybe at first glance you don't see the similarity, but when you take everything into consideration, this is Carl's issue number 1. Rick will die, so prepare yourself. What else do we know? They're making a big deal about soliciting this issue, announcing there's going to be 8 bonus pages. That gives us 30 full story pages. If you're not familiar with the single issue comics, we usually get 22 pages. That's a standard issue of story. And then we get 10 pages of advertisements, letters, columns, 32 pages total. But again, 22 of those pages are story. We will have 30 in issue 192. Kirkman announced on Twitter it is going to be a big deal. Also, they put up for solicitation blank sketch variants. If you're not familiar with these are a thicker sketch type paper that wraps around the original cover, so that way you can take it to a convention, get your favorite artist to draw on it. You can try to find the Walking Dead artist, Charlie Adler, find him somewhere to draw on it at a convention or something, or you can get one of your buddies that draws, anybody. That's the idea. Even if you draw, you can draw on the cover. So they're going to do the blank sketch variants. If you're into these, if you haven't really picked up some, I see a lot of interest for these. Definitely go and pick them up for sure. I imagine they're going to sell out fast, so try to get to the comic book shop or try to get on eBay and get them quick, because once they sell out, they do kind of rise in price. And I'll put a shameless plug in here. We still have 20 copies left of Doomsday Kingdom issue number 1. That's the comic I created. I'm the writer. We have 20 blank sketch variants left. Just throwing that out there. If you're into the blank sketch variants and you were not aware, doomsdaykingdom.com, just saying. As a matter of fact, we just got the finalized colored version of issue number 4's cover we can show before we make our release date announcement, which is coming soon. Issue 4 and 5 are going to be important. They're going to finish off the very first volume. That's going to be the really big push. So we're building up towards that issue 4 release, but I want to have a good chunk of content before. But anyway, back to The Walking Dead issue 192. And yeah, I will admit there's always a chance that it can go a different direction and this isn't the death of Rick, but at this point with all the evidence, I mean, with everything. Again, I'm not going to repeat myself, but with everything that I've said in the past, you take the story arc into consideration, the goodbyes, the wound itself, you take the issue numbers, I mean, it lines up almost too perfectly where you might not even get this same chance. And I know the issue numbers that I just brought up, if you think about it, that's such a rare thing to be able to do. Rick is shot in issue 1 and goes into a coma and enters this world, and then he's shot and killed finally in issue 191, and then he finds Carl in issue 2, and he's separated from Carl forever in issue 192. I mean, and again, that's taken into consideration all the most important stuff, which is the story arcs, the goodbyes, and everything, the wound, all that. At this point in time, it's got to be like a 98% chance Rick is going to die, with a 2% chance some other crazy shit might happen, like some kind of crazy medical staff that we have no idea about in the Commonwealth. He could go into a coma. I mean, that would be the only thing I would accept other than him dying. No, I don't want him to die like this. I accept the fact that Rick could die and should die before the story concludes. I think the story has grown bigger than Rick, but we need to keep a focus, forever a focus, on the Grimes family legacy. You can't kill all the Grimes. I don't believe in the comic. I think that would just decapitate the narrative, in my opinion. So Carl essentially would be important, and I think that is highlighted on this issue 192 cover. It's no mistake that they are so different, yet so very similar. They're standing in similar stances. Just the way it's done, where when you just look at it, when I looked at this at first, I didn't even think anything about issue number 1. It wasn't until I was pulling material from the older issues to show you guys how the story arc came full circle, and I saw issue 1 cover, and that's when it hit me. I was like, whoa, you know, this is it. This is for real. This is the death of Rick Grimes. And again, I called it a beautiful disappointment. As a matter of fact, I think we've had a lot of beautiful disappointments, especially with Game of Thrones recently, but I'm just saying, my main problems still stick from my review. It's the world building and the character taking Rick out. I know in real life, you know, nobodies can assassinate people, and they have done it. And it is as gut-wrenchingly pathetic as it is in real life, and I love realism, but this type of realism hits me in a way where it's like gross. You know what I'm saying? Again, there's so much I think was beautifully done. My one main gripe is part of the world building and Sebastian himself, the character himself, and my fear of where this pushes the story. I don't think it should rest all on Carl's shoulders and his character. I strongly feel this situation, this incident, needs to propel the story into a significant direction when it comes to the plot and the characters, and I'm just not seeing it right away. The beheading of Ned Stark in Game of Thrones sent off this ripple effect, plot-wise, that pulled a good chunk of the story and the characters with it. I don't see how that's gonna happen with Rick's death. Where they're at and who did it, I'm just not seeing it. On one positive note, I think it is actually a cool thing to follow a character, let's say Carl Grimes for example, and not have to worry about him taking places over or being the leader. I'm actually really excited about that idea of following Carl and then seeing which leaders he's going to choose to follow, to get along with, to cooperate with. We've looked at Rick, who was the leaders of the group and the leaders of the community, but Carl, especially at his age, I think it would be more interesting watching him mature and grow up into an adult, but not being the leader, especially right away. Anyway, there's going to be plenty of time to continue talking about the Walking Dead comic and the story unfolding inside it. So put those thoughts and opinions in the comment box, and also if you were taking part in our Days Gone gameplay live stream, we pushed the gameplay videos over to my personal channel now. After we did the week-long Days Gone event, we've got about 4 or 5 Days Gone videos up on that channel, covering all the primary weapons, sidearm weapons, special weapons, a tip for the bike, and we got a horde challenge coming up. So if you were over here watching those and you're interested in seeing some more content, you can find links to my personal channel down in the video description. But you guys put your thoughts and opinions down below. I'm done talking. Now it's your turn.